Published in 1958, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe is a novel set in pre-colonial Nigeria. And while it might not be a traditional business book, it does contain valuable lessons that can be applied to various aspects of life, including business storytelling. Dr. Chinua Achebe was a distinguished Nigerian novelist, poet, and critic who stood as a pivotal figure in modern African and Nigerian literature. Things Fall Apart was his first book, and it turned out to be a masterpiece, holding a central position within African literary discourse. Over 60 years later, Things Fall Apart continued to be the most extensively studied, translated, and embraced novel from the African continent. Welcome to Learning from the Masters. I am Obehi Ewanfo, author of The Storytelling Mastery, a 5-part book series that takes you by the hands through the journey of storytelling. This series is dedicated to some of the greatest masters out there who have done their best and have left behind their masterpieces for us to learn from while refining our own skills. To learn more, join our Storytelling Mastery for businesses at academy.aclasses.org/storytelling mastery. You can also pick up any of the 5 books on Amazon or any other place you prefer online. Now, back to the presentation. Now, here are 7 key principles that business storyteller can learn from the novel, along with some examples. Number 1. Cultural context matters. In business storytelling, understanding the cultural context of your audience is crucial. Achebe's novel emphasized the importance of understanding and respecting cultural relevance. For example, when Okonkwo violates the sacred week of peace, the consequences are severe, highlighting the significance of cultural norms. Now, what does this mean? I remember, for example, in one of our LinkedIn audio rooms, we're talking about how to be respectful of people when telling their story, because this is fundamentally important if you want your audience to stick with you. In that you are going to respect their senses and sensibility. You are going to understand what makes them happy. You are going to understand what they consider taboo. You are going to understand what type of story they want to share and what type of story they don't want to share. This can, of course, easily degenerate into problematic area. Either there are some stories that people want to keep aside. They don't want to talk about it for now, especially when you are talking of sensitive area. Have you ever talked about maybe how many Jews were killed during the Second World War in Nazi Germany? That might sound very simple to talk about, but it's not always simple depending on who you are talking to, of how much you want to reveal in the story related to people, of how many genocides have taken place in different areas in the world. You see, depending on who you are telling the story to, you must be able to respect their senses and sensibility. This can never be overstated. So if you read the book Things Fall Apart, and if you pay attention to how the author lay out the argument, then understanding the cultural context of your storytelling should make a lot of sense to you. And you should do the same also in your storytelling. Now, number 2, character development creates impactful stories. Just as Achebe meticulously developed the character of Okonkwo, business storyteller should focus on creating relatable character in their narrative. Relatable character means that the character that you create should be relatable to the audience that you are talking to, because the character is what the audience are going to root for. If the character is a type that they can relate to, then they can root for that type of character. But if the character doesn't represent anything that is considered important to them, which, for example, like what we were talking about in the first point, that you should tell stories that make sense to the people. So if this character is a type that the people can find themselves in, then of course the story will be impactful. But if not, the story cannot be impactful. So make sure the character that you create add depth and emotional connection to the audience that you are targeting. And this will make the story more memorable and impactful. And that leads us to number 3, that conflict drives narrative. Now, things fall apart revolve around conflict within the Igbo society at the arrival of European colonizers. In your business storytelling, you must learn to incorporate conflict or challenges faced by character or organizations. It is through this conflict that people are sort of curious to understand what is going to happen after that. Because if you tell a story that have no conflict, that type of story is not going to work because it's going to be flat and it's not going to help the people to think, to reflect, and to mimic themselves in your story. Because the reason you are telling this story is to help the people to see themselves in you. So that it's not just about statistics or data. It's about touching the human emotion, the heartstring of the people, so that they are sort of worried, they are sort of concerned, they are sort of asking the question, but what is going to happen now? What is the possible way out of this situation? Because you are the one that is creating the situation through your story. And you do this by creating conflict. Now they want to see what is the resolution of the conflict. They want to see how is the character going to come out of this situation of life and death in most of the cases. So you need to make sure that your narrative are engaging and relatable through the conflict that you are creating in your story. Number 4 is the power of tradition versus change. You see, Achebe explored the tension between tradition and change in Things Fall Apart. Similarly, in business storytelling, addressing the balance between preserving tradition and embracing innovation can resonate deeply with your audience. For instance, when the Igbo society faced disruption from colonial forces, it highlights the clash between tradition and change. Is there any way you can bring this into your storytelling? Of course, there are many ways. Think, for example, of the different disruption that is taking place all across the world today. Think, for example, just the use of AI, that a lot of people are going to lose their job if they refuse to adapt. So this is already a disruption. This is already an evidence of a change, a shift in the working environment, in the workplace, in the business ecosystem. Are you able to lace this in a way that people can understand that this change is something they need to adapt to if they want to survive as the economy progresses on? So if you learn how to balance the difference between what is old and what is new, or how to transition from one to another in your storytelling, then the audience will follow you because you help them understand what to do in the conflict that they have in front of them. Number 5, symbolism enhances storytelling. Yes, Achebe used symbols like the yam and the chi to convey deeper meaning. In business storytelling, you could incorporate symbolic elements to add layer to the narrative. For instance, a company logo, a product, or a specific color scheme can carry symbolic significance that enhance the overall message. Now, why you need these is to make sure that your story is not just on the surface, that it have a depth, it have a deeper meaning than just how it appeared on the surface. It is up to you as a storyteller or as a business storyteller to be able to help the people understand these different layers of your story. Otherwise, it remains just what the people see on the surface, which is not really going to create the curiosity or take the people along, because the people want something deep. They're not looking for just the surface information all the time. Because if that is all you need to do, then you don't need storytelling, because storytelling is not just about the surface. It's about taking people on a journey, going deep, and helping them to understand the meaning beyond what they already see in front of them. Now, number 6 is the importance of perspective. Now, Achebe presents different perspectives by narrating the story from multiple viewpoints. Similarly, business storytellers should consider different perspectives to provide a comprehensive view of the narrative. This could involve incorporating customer testimonial, employee story, or stakeholders' viewpoint. It is up to you again as a storyteller to help the people understand the story and choose how you want them to understand the story. Because now, think for example of customer testimonial. Companies like Amazon have leveraged this a lot. If one of the things that actually help Amazon to stand out in the market is that when people go to Amazon to buy product, they will leave a review. Now, what this review does for people that are just coming in who have not yet experienced the product is that they know that other buyers like them, other users like them have already tested the product and they have gotten either a good or a bad experience from the product. This will either convince them or discourage them to either buy the product or not to buy the product. Because if other people are having a good testimonial, are having a good experience about the product, then they too can have a good experience about the product. So it is up to you to collect this different testimonial and make it a story for people to understand and share it on your website, for example, or on your product page, so that when new people, new buyers, people that have not yet used the product come in contact with this product or in this product description, they understand that other people like them have already used this. So in that case, you have more chances of able to sell that product than when nobody have written anything about the product, because now people buy it without having any idea whether the product is going to be good for them or not. So having a different perspective in your storytelling can actually be very advantageous for you when telling your story from the standpoint of business. The last but not the least is to use strategy as a catalyst for reflection. The tragic event in Things Fall Apart prompts reflection on the consequences of action. In business storytelling, incorporating moments of reflection and learning from challenges or failure can make the narrative even more resonating, in that this allows the audience to connect with the story on a deeper level. In summary, Things Fall Apart provide a rich insight that can be applied to business storytelling by emphasizing cultural understanding, character development, conflict, and the balance between tradition and modernity. Make sure to also remember the importance of symbolism, perspective, and the reflective power of tragedy. This principle can help create more compelling and impactful narrative in your business context. Did you find any value in this presentation? Please let us know in the comment section below and share this video also with your friends who might like it. Talk to you in the next video. To learn more, join our storytelling mastery for businesses at academy.aclasses.org/storytelling.